ShowMen by J.H.Neilan. Read by J.H.Neilan. Part 2 of 3. The docket was a hangout where the netless frequented, but from time to time, new channel kids would show up to get their lay of the land. All terribly hierarchical, however. We pulled up to the docket, a popular arcade, full of ozone and sweat. As soon as we pulled in, 4 guys and 3 girls came up to the car. Chuck, to say the least, was popular. "Hey, Chuck," many of them said. "Yo, yo," Chuck laughed as he exited. A girl with blonde hair wrapped her arms around his neck and gave him an incredibly deep kiss, which sent me blushing and turning towards the doors of the arcade. I left Chuck, Lane, and the crew and walked into the arcade. It reeked, but it didn't bother me. Cold neon illuminated the dark room. Blues, reds, oranges, colliding in a cacophony of color and illuminating the smoke-filled room, while loud, ancient tunes hammered the eardrums. Aside from the stench, I loved the place. I moved from machine to machine, each blaring pop or punk or metal music from a bygone era. Kids' music, as the lecturers referred to it. Most people considered it a nuisance. Some considered it a drug. Others have been rallying to outlaw it, which was sad, given that it brought so many interesting and conflicting feelings to the surface. Most of the time I felt myself surrendering to it. All the anger and stress from the day evaporated with the riffs that hit each high and low point in life. I loved music and hoped that if it was ever to die, I'd die with it. As I moved from virtual to virtual, I could sense the slight stench of 2-day-old BO, and I suspected a number of kids there hadn't moved in a while. I wasn't too hooked on virtuals, but I did understand their allure. Escapism, though incredibly therapeutic, can be taken to an extreme. Some of those kids would end up in the well, and that's too bad. I was looking for Worm, hoping he had something for the tune in hand by the time I found him. I wasn't sure where he was, but as I turned a corner, standing 10 feet away, illuminated by a blue and green neon floor line, stood Sela. She was talking to another girl, a netless named Melissa. She turned to me and smiled. I wasn't ready to talk to her. I hadn't prepared anything, and now I had to think on the spot. I wasn't very good at it. "Hi," I said as I walked up to her, but spoke to Melissa. "How's the games tonight, Mel?" Melissa smiled at me. "Joel!" She stood and gave me a hug. I'm bored." "You meet Sela yet?" She turned and pointed to Sela. "No, I'd stuttered. "You're in my English class. Played that Tesla tune. It's one of my favorites." She extended her hand. "I'm Sela." "Hi, I'm Joel." I shook her hand. It was soft and warm, but firm. She was confident. "Nice to meet you, Joel." "So you like Tesla? I figured no one in the class knew what the hell I was playing." "Why's that? You think everyone other than your class is stupid?" She was quick and curt. It threw me off guard. No, not at all. I was just..." "Don't worry about it." She turned and walked away. "It was nice meeting you, Mel. Maybe I'll see you around, Joel." She smiled. I faltered. "Nice going, Joel." Melissa stood and grabbed my hand. "Maybe you'll get another chance." She laughed and dragged me into the back room. Worm was standing at an old Tron game, swearing and hitting the side of the stand-up. "Damn piece of junk." His burly voice resounded in the small room. Melissa pulled me to a table next to the box Worm was punching. "Damn it." He turned and gave me a big hug. "Joe, man, what a night. You see your chicken here?" "Yeah, kinda. Talked." "Ha!" Melissa turned and grabbed a cigarette. "Well, no worries, buddy. When you mentioned her, I made it a point to find her and introduce myself. She's jamming smart, man. Hot, too." "Yeah, thanks." I felt uncomfortable with the insinuation he was making. "Anyway, got a lead on a tune or two," he chuckled. "Oh, yeah?" "Yep." Worm pulled up a hookah from another table. "I think you're gonna like it." "Okay, who's the artist?" Worm hit a button on the old hookah, and 2 beams of yellow light hit the ceiling and started to rotate. "Whoa. Did you make that thing?" I said. "Yep," he replied, as he inhaled the rich smoke that was pouring from it. "Want a hit? It's Mango Peach." "No, thanks. So what do you got?" I was anxious to get the new tunes in my head. "Check it. Iron Maiden." He handed me a small solid state. "Could only get a few songs from the archive. It's scheduled to burn out tomorrow. Too bad, too. Looked like he had a hell of a collection in it." He drew deeply from the hookah again. "All that old school cool. Just dated, deleted into the aether. Interesting. Never heard of them." I held the small rectangle between my fingers. "As for the show, the IC in charge is my cousin." "No shit," I shouted. "Indeed. So I think I can get you guys during a lunch block or something. There'll be netheads there, but not many. Not any that you'd know or any that would even care. However, listen to a few of the tracks on that drive." Worm leaned closer. "It's good, man. But you may want to substitute something more low-key for the show. Trust me, this stuff's different. Hate to see you guys get fined. Or worse." He sat back chuckling. I was anxious to hear the tunes. If Format said that they were good, then they definitely were. Thanks again, man. How's your mom doing? I started to stand. She's good. Got a new job in the main drag. Awesome, brother. Hope it takes you up a channel. He chuckled as I walked out of the room. Bye, Mel. She beamed and waved as I walked towards the arcade entrance. Chuck was standing with his girl, Jess. Chuck was once again entertaining a group of people with his wit. His smile brought people together, and the small audience was applauding when he pulled out his antique blue Ibanez six-string. Hey, Chuck, when you're done, I got a present, I called to him as I walked out of the arcade and into the cool night air. I should have been getting home. My folks weren't strict, but they sure didn't like me hanging out late when midterms were approaching. I listened to one of the goofy, twangy songs Chuck was playing inside the entrance of the arcade as the dull yellow glow of the overheads painted the neon-lined steel street barriers. Non-baryonic decay and a slate-black Ulam spiral of improbability primes a line in ego-dimensional eccentricity as the fires of faith fall within throwing distance of the left half of my cerebellum. Static sensitivity. My eyes opened, and I saw Sela. She walked through the doorway. She walked right up to me, grabbed my shoulders, and kissed me. The micro. Can I listen? She settled down on her heels. My head was reeling. Yeah. I gave her the earpiece, and I linked to the micro drive. So you play with Chuck? Yeah, he's a fantastic guitarist, teaching me a lot. I fumbled with the earbud, trying to wipe it off out of consideration. She took the earpiece and tapped the drive. I had been holding it out in confusion like an idiot. Her head started to dip. As she turned slightly to her right, I could sense that she was really trying to listen to the song. After a second, she tapped the drive again. About 2 seconds, she hit it again. Those first two were okay, she said, then stopped. She listened for a good 4 minutes, moving her head with the music. I didn't know what the song was, but she seemed to like it. This one. She took the earbud from her ear and handed it to me. Thanks for the tunes and the kiss. Hope you didn't mind. She smiled and turned effortlessly. Maybe we can catch a show sometime. She walked back into the arcade. You should also try playing something else, like Sentinel's Apprentice. I didn't know what to do. My head was bouncing from one excited thought to the next. I smiled, forgetting about the song, and went to follow her. Just as I got to the arcade door, Chuck rounded the corner. Joel, did you just make out with that chick? He grabbed my shoulder. Man, I have no idea what just happened, man, but she picked a song. I handed Chuck the micro and earbud. Apparently track 3 is good. Okay, I'll give it a listen. He grabbed the drink and sat at the table near the entrance. As soon as he started the drive, he was gone, moving his head. I knew he was into it. I left Chuck with the drive. I was consumed with Sela's kiss. I needed to find her again. I needed to be near her again. But I didn't get very far when nearby sirens started to wail. Above the hill that rose above the arcade, police and fire ATs came screaming down towards the building. Something had triggered the alarms. My only guess was that some jackass had started a fire with the smoke. Oddly, however, I hadn't noticed an alarm from within the building, and people weren't running out of the main entrance. Damn. Check raid, I shouted as I ran to Chuck. His eyes were closed and didn't hear the sirens over the earbud jack in the system. I shook him and he stood upright as soon as he saw the lights fast approaching. Wow, check raid. Shit. Network losers. He jammed the drive into his pocket. We're in Hell's Lane. Don't know, but let's jet, man. He's on his own for now. Chuck and I ran towards his car and nailed it out of the parking lot, just before the first AT came screaming into the zone. They didn't pursue us, which meant that they were more interested in the large contraband score and not the 1 or 2 netless in the shitty car. Damn it, I shouted. No worries, man. Land might have jetted too. Even if he didn't, he's got nothing on him. He was talking with Mel and Worm when I left him. Chuck slowed his car and hit the AT mode. The car slowed and he fished the micro from his pocket. That track was something else. Difficult, though. He slammed the micro into the deck console. The speakers erupted with the melodic, fast riffs that I hadn't heard before. The first track was crazy complicated, beyond my capability. Chuck could have easily played it, but as a group, no way. The second track was even better. Spoke of an era when nuclear war was just on the horizon. A terrifying time. Chuck, I've never heard you sing. Can you sing? I mentioned, realizing that these tracks were unique. We would be hard-pressed to pull them off. The vocals themselves were difficult. High-end. Hell no, he said. Shit. The third track, however, was different. It was an instrumental. Not too difficult for the bass, but still challenging. It moved well, flowed with an ease and message. It was fun, and I could see why Sela liked it. It wasn't too full of itself, and it was titled appropriately. Lost for Words. Big Aura. Dude, that's a great song, Chuck said. I wasn't so sure it would work. It's good, man, but don't know. What about the second song? I asked. Elaine and I were thinking Nirvana, Chuck said. Yeah, Sentinel's Apprentice. I couldn't believe the coincidence. Let's see what Lane has to say about it tomorrow, if that loser isn't in jail already. We laughed, knowing that Lane and most everyone else would be fine, minus one or two contra peddlers. Worm's never been caught, and I doubt he ever would be. Chuck, as he typically did, calmed my fears with humor and his quirky way of talking, slight sarcasm in every sentence for good measure. Chuck was never condescending, but he certainly enjoyed the art of sarcasm. He dropped me off, and I went unto my parents' place, micro in hand, already replaying track 3 for the 4th time. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept cycling between the song and Selah. She was magnetic. I knew nothing about her, and all I wanted to do was kiss her again. Chuck warned me, but I didn't care. She was incredibly forward. It didn't occur to me at that time that she might have had another motive coming on as strong as she did. As a teenager, I was an easy mark. The overheads moved silently that night. Typically, the scrubbers ran full power, a sustained dull roar through the night air. This time of year, pollution levels decreased due to shifting prevailing winds, and the night was uncommonly quiet. I had fallen asleep to an old Metallica tune that had always filled me with yearning and possibility. Orion was a great song, and I loved to drift into it, get lost, and wake up a few hours later in a better state of mind. End Part 2.